Hello and welcome to this week's Old School RuneScape Q&A after a dodgy start. I'm going to introduce the couch as normal. We've got from your, I always get this wrong, left, we have Mod Bruno.
Hello.
Mod Munro.
Hello.
On my left, your right, we have Mod Kieran.
You're right.
And a new face on the sofa this week. Please welcome Mod Tide.
Hello.
So, so yeah, those of you who have seen on Twitter will know we've got a new, well, how about you tell us what your role is actually before I say it all for you.
I am a junior content developer for Old School RuneScape.
He's our new junior content developer. So yeah, let's do the little introduction spiel. We'll start with, well, how are you finding it so far? How long have you been here?
I've been here now since Monday. I'm finding it's a challenge, but I'm enjoying it. I'm learning a lot.
That's good.
First thoughts on RuneScript?
Yeah. You know, my thoughts on RuneScript.
Yeah.
It's different.
Fair play.
Yeah. Gotta learn it in a different way.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know anything about code. I'm not smart enough for all of that, but I understand it's completely different to any other sort of script or language. Is it unusual in any way?
Not really. It's got similarities, but it is different.
So, what's your history with Old School?
I've been playing Old School since 2006. I stopped playing when the Evolution of Combat came out, but then started playing again when the Revolution came out, and I've been playing ever since.
Cool. Oh, that's good to know. You're sort of the archetypal Old School player in that sense, then. So yeah, if you want to check out Mod Tide and follow what he's up to, it'll be interesting to see all the content he comes out with, and as he's learning. You can, I think it's !NewMod in the chat. We'll link you straight to his Twitter. Drop him a follow. Don't go too hard on the Tide Pod memes. We knew that was coming. So I'm going to do some more announcements. Sorry, just gathering myself. So the Kebos poll is still up. The post-launch changes are in-game. I think we're leaving that open until late Friday, sort of our time. You can expect that to close around sort of 5, around that sort of time. So still time to vote if you haven't yet. I think so far it's going well. Pretty much everything is passing, if I'm not mistaken, but still worth voting. Make sure to get your thoughts and opinions counting. Speaking of, well, one of the questions, which is actually I think at 95%, is pretty certain, is the Alchemical Hydra head. So we didn't get to release this with the launch itself. I think it was just due to time constraints and dev time. But we'd like to add that now, and so that will come with the Slayer helmet, as well as the jar of chemicals, I think we're calling it, which is going to be for the standard display case with the Alchemical Hydra in it, which I think we have a GIF of. I'm going to show that off to you now. This is Mod Ghost's beautiful work. As always, he's, well, made an awesome design there. What do we like about this the most, guys?
The tubes are pretty cool, the pipes.
I like the pipes, I like the Hydra, it all looks sick to me.
Yeah. No, I think that looks really good.
The whole posing of it in its own environment, as well as, you know it's the last phase of that boss you just killed.
These are one of the favourite things I think we've ever added. Like, these display cases are just sick, making the little miniature versions of the boss environment. Love it.
I really like how all the colours blend together.
Yeah, no, it's really nice that this one has sort of a bit of the environment that you find the boss in the case. I think that looks awesome. In other sort of Zaya-related news, you can expect a blog out soon that was been written by Ash, which is going to include all sorts of quality of life changes for Chambers of Xeric. We know you guys have been asking for it for a while, so we're going to deliver those to you soon. I think actually it's going to be up, if I'm not mistaken,
at the end of this.
Sometime during the stream, maybe towards the end, that'll be live, so keep an eye on the news section of the website for that.
Yeah, I think that's something we've been talking about for a while. We've sort of promised it midway through last year and we just got around to it. So apologies, it's taken a while, but yeah, make sure you give any feedback on that.
Yeah, so something that's been asked about quite a lot is the The last release of the year, the last big one, is going to be obviously warding. So I want to give an announcement out now that players can expect an inbox or email in the next few days, I think on Friday actually. I think 50,000 or so of you are going to receive this. It's going to be an invitation to give your opinion on warding. This is just to get more sort of concentrated data to see who likes it, who doesn't. If you don't like it, which maybe a few of you in chat aren't so keen at this point, I know a lot of you are, but for those of you that aren't, we want to know why, and we want to know what we can improve or change to change some of your no's into yeses. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure to keep checking your email and inbox as of Friday. You may be invited to be part of that discussion. And, well, everyone else is still a welcome part of the general discussion. We still want to know your thoughts. We're constantly on the lookout for anything we can do to improve the current design. I think that's about it for the announcements. I guess we'll just move straight on to the questions. I'm going to thank Mod Tide for his time and joining us here on the couch.
Thank you.
And I'm going to sub in a familiar face. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor.
I'm sure you'll see more Mud Tide soon, right? Would you look who it is?
Yeah, it is.
Hang on, this is awkward.
We're making it as awkward as possible. Oh, you just sit here in silence while Archie puts his mic on.
Well, we could have answered the question. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's much better just to go in silence.
We'll wait.
Lots of pog in the chat. Well, welcome back to the couch, Mod Archie. It's been a fair while, I understand.
It has been, yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask you some PvP-related questions,
Okay.
because I believe you've got a little bit to talk about. The first being sort of, what is the state of the Bounty Hunter rework that was promised in October during RuneFest? Can you sort of give us a little update on where we're at?
I mean, you'll know just as good as I will, if not better, on this one. Unfortunately, it's kind of sitting on the back burner. We don't have a competitive gaming developer at the moment, but we have just hired a new developer, as you know, and there's no one coming, I think, very shortly, maybe even in March. So hopefully we'll be able to see some things like that pick up and move along nicely.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of my involvement, we're going to have a design meeting soon, and we're going to collect some, just to flesh out the design a bit more before presenting it to you guys.
Yep.
And we're going to try and involve some of the highest ranked Bounty Hunter players, clans and whatnot, to get your guys' opinion to make sure it is just how you want it to look. So that's where we're at with that. We do apologise for the delay. It was just a case of trying to get all of the updates in at the end of last year, and we want to make sure we didn't sort of present something that wasn't ready, essentially. So
Yeah, I think that's actually a decent point. We're really going to look for feedback, I think, after this Q&A, specifically around the Bounty Hunter tasks. So for those unfamiliar, the concept is very similar to Slayer, but for PvP, and Bounty Hunter specifically. So an NPC would look at your account, assess your stats and your build, and then give you a task. So maybe if you're a maxed main, it would look at you and say, kill your next target with a full set of barrows equipped. You have to have the barrow set equipped as you kill the opponent, and that's it. You get your points, rewards, still up for debate and all these things. But we're really looking for tasks, I think, at this point, because that's an easy one. That one, you know, that's a pretty obvious one. But what about the accounts that are like 33 in all stats? What are they going to have as tasks? So we really want to flesh out these things and make sure we have something that's actually concrete and viable for all different builds, more than just a handful. These are things we'd like to lean on you guys for. So look into feedback, or look into the social channels for feedback after this, I guess.
cool.
Yeah, and I particularly like bringing in, or looking to speak to specific players and getting better representation from like the Bounty Hunter community. And I think it's something I'd like to start doing with more updates in general.
Yeah.
Is make sure we really do bring in your opinion from the player base as well. I think it's something we're throwing around, like when we were talking about the Konar drop table. We all know it obviously ran into a lot of issues, and hopefully now that, I'm not sure what the opinion of it is now, but hopefully it's in a better place, that we actually discussed the idea of going to the extent of bringing up the drop table in a spreadsheet on this stream and chatting to you about it until we came to a conclusion. Like, I feel like as a team we want to, make sure we have that like dev team link to the player base, and this is a perfect example of trying to make sure they're involved.
Yeah, for sure, and hopefully that will show when it comes to writing the blog and having the ideas ready to present to you guys. So I'll move on to the questions. The first couple are PvP related. Ian Spam wants to know if we can have, well, we've actually covered already a couple of these points, but the first question he has is, can we have an update on any Deadman changes? He also asks about the competitive gaming team, but I think Archie just touched on that, as well as Bounty Hunter. So yeah, I guess DMM is the question. What's the update?
Sure. I mean, all I can really say at this point is we have a very impressive backlog compiled of so many different exciting ideas from the player base. There's not a shortage of ideas, I should say. But as far as the competitive gaming dev goes, as I just said, we don't have one at the moment. We've just hired a new dev. We've got another one on the way. So that's all I can really say there. But for Deadman, I believe I can say you should hope to hear something by next week.
Okay. C Engineer also happened to pitch in with some suggestions. Just going to quick fire them to get your guys' opinion, particularly yours, Mod Archie. So he wants a 6-second combat timer when your opponent doesn't attack back. Is that? I'm not a PK myself, so I'm not the best.
So what decides if your opponent doesn't attack back? How long have you been hitting? I guess you're not going to know. Okay. C Engineer. Maybe a little bit more in depth with that one, but yeah.
Okay. If difficult to answer, maybe we'll get him to specify.
Yeah. He'll tweet it.
Yeah.
How about a telebox sound or message when the timer runs out?
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Sounds
It seems reasonable.
It just doesn't alert you to when you're free.
Mm-hmm.
An in-game timer to display how long you have left to attack a player who's in the safe zone.
Definitely that one. Definitely, yeah. So when you're in PvP worlds, you can still attack people when they run into the Grand Exchange safe zone, for example, or any of them. But you don't know how many hits you can get in, so you're just kind of hoping the last hit will do it. Yeah.
From what I remember, I did bring this up when we was testing the actual job which came with this change, and I think the reason why we didn't do it is because it was probably too complex. So obviously, it's Old School RuneScape. You can't have everything in it compared to like RuneScape 3. Mm-hmm. So some of the things I had to push back on. This one being one of them.
That's fair. And the last suggestion was removing the water fountain in Lumbridge on PvP worlds, I believe it is. I think the issue here is you'll get lots of bots running because it's a very close bank with the chest to the water fountain to fill up vessels with water. Not particularly PvP related necessarily.
Yeah, not. I mean,
No,
there was a
PvP
suggestion to put the another Alcrovid gate there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I saw
did
that.
see that. Yeah.
We should probably do something about that, but that's not really PvP related.
No.
But I suppose we could just, well, maybe you can just make it so the fountain can't be used as a water source for that particular instance.
We can make it so the fountain's dried up on that world or something.
Yeah, there's something we can do for that, I think.
Sure. Okay, so I'll move on to the rest of the questions. The first one I'd like to address was, I didn't put a name on this because there's quite a few people asking about it, but they want to know what happened to the bone whip, which was suggested in the revised version of the poll blog, but pulled before we put the poll live. Well, it's a two-parter, but I'll ask first, what happened to the bone whip, essentially? That's the question.
I wasn't in the
No.
chat.
Okay. I mean, I've got an answer. It's essentially that we didn't feel it was the right time or place to put it in. So for those of you who don't know, the idea was to take the Hydra tail, which I think is currently only used to make the Bone Crusher necklace.
Yeah.
And we wanted to, well, we offered the idea of creating a tier, I think it was 72 attack, for that, combining it with the whip to create this new whip with stats sort of halfway between the standard whip and the tentacle whip. But it just sort of felt out of place, and in response to the feedback, we thought we could probably do something better with this style of weaponry. There were suggestions like adding a strength option on it, but because of the invisible strength bonus, I think that would have made it too strong, despite any other sort of uses it might have received.
Plus, it would have meant making a new category of whip for that whip in particular if we'd added strength bonus to that.
Right.
Well, it would have devalued the Sarah Sword and the Bishop deck
And that was also the
every
thoughts.
further.
Sarah Sword and Blessed Sarah Sword have got.
Depends how much we care about that, though.
Yeah.
And the second sort of part of that question was, what did we think of other designs that came up in response to it. So I saw things like a dragon scimitar, which was upgraded to a bone scimitar, which looked very cool. I don't know what stats were proposed or if there were any. There was that, and also
there's a flail.
There's a flail, yeah.
There's like every combination.
There's loads of different things going around with different
actually,
bone
I think
weapons.
we have
Yeah.
an image of the bone flail. There we go.
That's the thing, is it just looks cool and it sounds cool,
It
so it's
looks
like we
amazing.
should do it.
We should do something with that.
I thought it was very cool, and I'd like to do something with it at some point in the future, but this didn't feel like the right place. I mean, I know a lot of it's just that players want a sort of one-handed crush weapon at around tier 70. But yeah, maybe that's something we can do in the future. Looks pretty good.
On the topic of whips, I saw a point brought up that affects PvP with whips.
Yeah.
And it sounded like a pretty big problem to me that I wasn't really aware of that was a thing. Comes into two categories. Firstly, the tent whip. Tent whip's obviously quite a big boost over using the regular whip. And if you're PKing against someone using a tent whip or using one yourself, the risk is so much lower, right, than using a whip. Because if you manage to kill someone who's got a tent whip, you don't get really rewarded for it. You get the Kraken Tentacle, which is not worth anything, really.
Yeah.
While the whip, which is worth 2.5, 3 mil, whatever it is nowadays, goes to dust, right?
Yeah.
And then the other kind of whip, the lava and ice ones, because they're untradeable, you can just drop them if you know you're going to die, and hence you don't lose them. When really, obviously, the other player should be getting your whip, right?
Yeah, so the main problem here is PvP is already very difficult to be profitable. You have to be very skilled. You have to win obviously a majority of your fights and then pay for PKing supplies and such. And when you're killing somebody and you're risking something like a whip or a Kraken whip, and you kill them for theirs and you're not even getting that much in return, it's just demotivating. So definitely in favor of bringing that up to scratch. So making sure you earn what you should.
Well, the question is, how do we fix that?
Yeah.
Because right now you cannot get the whip back once you charge a Kraken whip.
Yeah. So the reason why we give the Kraken is because we want to sync whips, I guess. So how do we get around that?
Well, that's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, if people want to use tent whip in PvP, but they want it to have higher risk, I don't know. Maybe we need to approach it in a completely different way.
Yeah. I don't know how we get around the fact that you'd
It'd have to be a broken tent whip and repair sort of deal.
Yeah, and then there's other issues as well. Personally, just personal opinions, I think things like the Avernic Defender should give more when you kill somebody with it.
Yeah, that
Very
one for
expensive
sure.
item and you only get a mil. Things like that, I think we should take a second look at.
Yeah, potentially for the Defender, there's maybe options of splitting out the hilt itself, perhaps.
Yeah.
But again, it's got the same issue the Tent Whip's got.
Or a bigger payout, bigger cost to repair
Yeah.
it, things like that.
Yeah.
The thing is, with the repair costs, we can change them. We can play with that. So I'm not too worried about that. With the lava and ice whips, we could prevent them from being dropped potentially.
We could just drop
Something like that.
actually drop the whip and set it, and then
So-
just get rid of the.
Are the dies tradable?
The dies are
And
tradable.
whips
The
are
whips are tradable.
So why not make them,
The whip's tradable.
yeah, why not make the coloured whips?
So that's a good one. That seems entirely reasonable to me.
Although I mean, that's one of the selling points for non-PvPers is that you make the whip untradeable, right? Because it keeps it safe.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want people to rely on that anyway, because the Deadman connection will likely change at some point. It's just meant to be a temporary thing that you don't lose on tradables.
Yeah.
I'd rather make that whip tradable if it's causing problems in PvP.
Yeah.
Why are people saying no to that? Just say no. Say why you're saying no.
So yes. There we go.
There we go. So I'll move on to the next question from Splendid. This generated quite a lot of discussion, actually. It says, can we have new high-level skilling methods that award gold over experience, particularly for skills such as woodcutting, fishing and mining? Even if they're quest locked, we could give high-level resources that aren't dropped in PVM. It seems like a lot of people don't want skilling to be profitable, and a lot do. Quite a mixed response.
I will
actually, in
say
the chat.
that there is some mining is worth quite a bit of money, particularly if you finish making friends with my arm.
Yeah.
Mining the different types of salt and different types of basalt and making the teleports to sell can actually get quite a lot of money for players. I can't remember how much it is per hour, but it's not very much XP at all, but the actual money you make from it is quite high, especially because you can note the basalt upstairs. at the quest NPC.
So we're talking about skilling not giving enough gold.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Just throwing this out there, maybe a bad idea, and we've already talked about RSN. What about skilling tasks? So if somebody gives you a task and says, go cut me 450 magic logs. You cut the logs, you get the logs, and he rewards you potentially with something a little bit extra.
I quite like that.
Maybe it's a bad idea. I'm pretty sure that's been asked before 100 times. I like it.
The
Yeah.
farming contracts have gone down quite well, and that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much
So-
just for one skill, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we
But-
could do similar things with the other skills. Maybe something for the Cook's Guild, which is not particularly exciting at the moment. Maybe have the chef there ask you to make, I don't know, 100 pies of a certain.
I think a pie contract thing is cool because the pies are actually. Why the heck are you going to make pies yourself, really?
Yeah.
Because it's so much a pain. You got to get the dough, put it in the dish, get the ingredients, and so on. So there's quite a few steps, but you obviously can mix it up. There's also there's that place in Zaire, I think it's called the Mess, where you do the pies, the
Oh, yeah.
pizzas, etc. Which is actually quite effective, but quite underused. And so I like the gameplay there, in that you are doing these different cooking items, and so there's potentially a lot to play with. But in terms of skills and to profit, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me. If you have the right idea for content, or what,
Yeah. Well,
happy to offer it.
you can still do your skilling as you would. This wouldn't be a meta to give you more experience per hour. So you're not devaluing anything like that. You're just making a little bit more money by adding a little bit of variety. So I can't really see a no for this, other than potentially dev time. Is this an expensive project to work on?
Depends on which one.
Yeah.
If it's like pie contracts or something like that, it's not too expensive at all.
Basically depends what we end up coming up with for the design of the actual money-making methods for the skilling.
Sure. I could easily see this working with something like just making the guilds, again, more enjoyable to interact with, like the Farmer Guild is. I mean, that's set a really high bar for how good guilds can be.
Everything started looking at the other guys like, what is this?
This is true.
what can you do with the prayer guild? I mean,
So I'll move on. Actually, on a similar note, Ghost says farming overall is in a solid place now that the Farming Guild is there. But with the exception of hops, which are not used in contracts or planted in convenient areas. Can these be looked at, for example, with a brewing update, possibly involving the Trouble Brewing minigame, to make them more relevant?
there is a design for a brewing expansion rework, but it's such a big project, it's something that's not really used very well. We need a clear understanding of what can it do for us. Right now, the beers are essentially just the skill boosts, and for the most part, they're not even the best skill boosts. There's only a few skills where you really do need them. But yeah, there's a lot of quality of life that could easily be added to brewing, but right now, barely anyone does it at all. Press 1 in the chat if you've actually done brewing in the last 2. Everyone's gonna lie, but
Yeah, of course they are.
but like, we need a clear understanding of what can brewing do. What's its space in the game? Because right now it doesn't have one.
I can't remember which ale it is, but there's one which you need a mature version of. Is
Green
Asgardian, for a clue.
Yeah, I think it's either green.
Green Man's
Yeah,
Ale.
Green Man's Ale. There was a time when that was very profitable, just because not because it's a good item necessarily, but because it had a specific use and not enough people were making it.
Nobody can be bothered to make it, you just rather buy it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you need
Buy and sell.
an item called the stuff,
Yeah.
which I believe increases the odds of you getting mature ale.
Right.
Yeah.
But the stuff also comes from Trouble Brewing, which is also dead, and no one does it. So there's so many problems, and it's quite unwind quite a lot of stuff there. One thing we could even do is make the stuff 100% mature ale when you use it, and that could make a big difference.
Yeah.
Can I grab a question from the chat?
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody just asked what our thoughts are on potentially introducing the 3 points hit points system back. I don't know. Exponentially increasing hit points from instead of being 10 to be 100.
Oh, okay.
Not in favor personally.
Norma.
I think it's clear how the chat feels.
Okay, I said no.
I don't think there's anything to gain from doing it.
No. I mean, all it really does is just make you hit higher numbers.
Yeah.
It gives you the extra decimal point.
It's the type of thing that I'd think would be good to not introduce to old school ever, even down the line.
I think it's one of the updates that signaled the turning point for RuneScape. So it's definitely going to have a lot of bad feeling around it for some of our players. I'll say no more about it. Our next question is from Cleo, and they ask, what are your feelings towards the lack of PVM bosses where magic is the primary combat style?
I would love to do another boss with some magic involved, but magic right now is a bit rubbish when it comes to standard combat. So pretty much right now, I mean, I know the Hydra generated some conversation about T-bow is always good, range is always the best. I mean, there's obviously a few fundamental problems that you all already know about. That blowpipe's really quite powerful, and T-bow is also quite good. So, but when it comes to actually designing a boss, standing at a distance works so much better for so many of the mechanics. Like, you got so much more scope for design when your player's not right next to the boss all the time. So that's one thing. But then it brings on to that topic of magic's a bit rubbish. So when it comes to normal attacks, tridents you go to, right? Its DPS is so low compared to like blowpipe that you have to make its range defense so high to even achieve that.
Yeah.
But secondly, obviously, the magic has some interesting options. We can cast the right sort of spell, cast different ancient spells, cast different elemental spells, whatever it is. But that can be quite tedious over a long time. So we need to be quite careful about what we design. I think the Sire is a good example. With Sire, we really did quite strongly force you to use ancient spells, right?
Yeah, you have to smoke.
So you have to use certain ancient spells. And a lot of people found it frustrating and didn't like fighting Sire, at least not 100 times on a task.
Right.
Can I add a popular and unpopular opinion?
Go for it.
People want magic to be better because they want it to be more up to par with range. But if that's the case, could we consider making range a little bit less strong
I think
against everything?
Yeah.
it's potentially a bit of both,
Yeah.
I think. So bringing ranges top and down and pushing magic a little bit further. I did see some suggestions for like, why can't we have another proper boss like the Dagonoth Mother? And it's just like, you wouldn't want to kill that 200 times in a row. It's frustrating when it changes colour. So design-wise, there's definitely a lot to explore. I'd like to do it more, and I'd be keen to make the next boss a magic boss. In terms of nerfing blowpipe, what are people's opinions on that?
Everyone's got one now. No one wants to see it nerfed. That's what's happening in the chat.
Depends how, I think. I wouldn't want to touch the attack speed. I think that would be too controversial. Maybe something like reducing its accuracy a bit, just so your DPS isn't quite as strong.
I want to nerf the blowpipe.
You do?
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Panic sell.
What's your opinion on Bruno?
Blowpipe's definitely strong, and I also would like another magic boss. Like Zora is really nice because magic works well, and so does range. It's sort of like the best of both worlds. So yeah, it would be nice if we could have more bosses that use mage. Yeah. About the blowpipe, there's no way around it. Everyone knows it's really strong and it's really cheap. The only thing expensive about it is the darts you put in it. And
The scales are quite
scales
expensive.
as well, to be
aren't
fair.
they?
yeah, pretty expensive as well.
It's just the type of thing is like, you used to do a Jad task, you could bring a crystal bow, you could bring this, you could be this. They'd all be viable, or at least to an extent, but now it's like, just bring a blowpipe.
Yep.
You just need a blowpipe.
I remember doing jab with my rune crossbow for the first time.
Yeah.
It's just worlds apart from from the blowpipe now. I mean, something that would help with the magic boss, I think, is if there was some better sort of mage tank armor to help you fight them. If only there was sort of a skill that could help you make that. Something along those lines would be really nice. Maybe that's part of the solution. Hint, hint.
Maybe something to do with soul back.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Something along those lines, perhaps.
Blood bar.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, like soul runes and blood runes, but in back.
It's about the halfway point. I think it might be worth clarifying, though the title says introducing Mod Tide. He's not actually on the couch right now, for people asking about him. He is back upstairs working on new content, presumably. So there you go. I'm not him.
Don't forget !new mod in the chat to, I think it'll take you to Mod Tide's Twitter page. Don't forget to drop him a follow to see what he's up to and track his progress. So our next question is from Raiden, and he says, you guys said previously that you would consider making melee more viable as a whole for the Alchemical Hydra. Is this still happening? I'll tie this in with the Dragon Hunter Lance question as well, because some people want to see that be a bit more viable against the Hydra as well. This sort of also ties into the whole ranged being quite powerful at the minute for new bosses and just generally.
I think we were discussing that initially, whether we wanted to, firstly, whether we wanted to buff the D-Hunter Lance overall, and I don't think we need to. I think the player base made that quite clear as well. And then the other option was make Dragon Hunter Lance even better against the Hydra specifically. I don't remember where we got with that, but I believe we decided it just doesn't feel right to do that.
I think the problem we had really with making the Dragon Hunter Lance better, specifically the Hydra, or even just making melee better against the Hydra, is still that you're probably going to want to range it when you're luring it on top of the vents. So even though we make melee better, it's still, for doing the mechanics of the boss better, you're still better to have a ranged weapon with you, especially for luring it and attacking whilst in the fire phase and things like that.
I've seen a few people develop a meta for meleeing Hydra, and to be fair, they're doing completely fine.
I did see a pretty good time that people have been getting with melee.
Yeah. So, my opinion, it's fine as it is.
And plus, I think the boss is actually in a good spot and it's working all right.
I'd say so. In terms of the Lance itself, there are people saying, what if we gave it a 30% bonus instead of 20? Much like the Dragon Hunter crossbow, but I think at that point it becomes insanely good for rune dragons. It's already, I think, the best thing for rune dragons in particular, which are good money. So I wouldn't want to go that far or anything like that. Mr. Prez asks if a version of the Farming Guild door fix can be implemented on the doors in the Barrows tunnels. Currently it's annoying to move through the tunnels when other players are using the same doors. First we update the players on the Farming Guild doors and let them know what the what the situation is there. This has been a bit of a thing.
Yeah, so we heard your complaints about the Farming Guild doors again, with the mapping and the pathing from going to the bank and when you're clicking on different patches and going through. So we've updated them again and changed it so that there's no blocking anymore. So the pathing is fixed and you'll still get thrown out properly when your level's not correct. The only slight change with that is if you log in after your level's been boosted and you're now back down to below the requisite level, you'll no longer be inside the right area, as we had to do that just to be safe. And teleporting in with the spirit tree with the incorrect levels now going to teleport you to the same location as the skills necklace inside the Farming Guild.
Yeah. It works really well now. So previously what we tried to do was get rid of people complaining that you'd click on the door and then someone else would click on the door so you'd stop. So instead we decided, well, there's no door now, but you're only really able to move to where the door used to be. So now we just remove the barrier itself, so they could just run around freely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in response to the actual question, applying that to Barrows, I suppose it wouldn't necessarily apply in the same way. And I don't know if it's even a problem. A lot of the chat saying, no, we should apply a similar sort of mechanic to Barrows tunnels.
Yeah, I guess the issue with Barrows tunnels as well is obviously there's a lot of enemies in there, so we couldn't just not block the rooms because it would destroy the distribution of the enemies in that area probably. And two, a lot of players spam the doors basically to get enemies they need to fight to get their percentages up.
Yep.
So I wouldn't want to stop them doing that either.
I think one of the problems is when somebody goes through a door, nobody else can click it.
Yeah.
We might be able to tackle that in a different way, but we can't apply the Farming Guild stuff to Barrows. Also, people's doors and Barrows change depending on which layout you've got, so that's another problem.
Sure. All right. Well, that answers that then. I'll move on to Neon's question. They want to know what our thoughts are on expanding the prayer book. Rigor and Augury are very nice, but what about a toned-down version of the ancient prayers? So my goal isn't only to reach 82 prayer, but rather up around 95.
I don't feel there's any reason to add curses or even toned down versions at all. Like, I am more than open to new ideas for new prayers to be at the top end and flesh out the
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
But I don't see a reason to just push the meta beyond rigor and orrery for no reason.
100%. Just because there doesn't happen to be anything above 77 doesn't mean we need to push something in there that doesn't fit. Not a fan of Turmoil personally, or Soul Split.
Yeah.
It would just buff. It would be a buff for nothing other than a buff. No reason for it. So
Sure. I just wonder, I think we're quite limited in terms of what combat boosts we can have at the very top end after rigor in particular. But if you guys have any ideas, do let us know. We're not going to be able to think of something right now on the top of our heads, I guess, unless someone does have a suggestion. But yeah, probably not curses.
the only thing it gives you right now is obviously your prayer pots go further.
Yeah.
And you get combat levels, so if you want max.
It has
Yeah.
It has to make sense as well. Some people are saying, well, what about running prayer? So prayer that replenishes your run. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, it's kind of strange on that.
I don't know.
Super smite.
It's just saying your prayer potions are now energy potions.
Super Smite exists, isn't that the red one? Dustin asked.
In all seriousness, sorry, just before you move on, the idea of so regardless of a prayer, whether a prayer buffs your run energy, or reduces the amount you use run, slightly related topic, but I still think run energy is a problem in this game. Right? It's all well and good once you've got graceful, and you can go to the G and purchase stamina pots. Firstly, if you're free to play, it's awful. Secondly, until you've literally the first thing you've got to do on an account is pretty much just go and do your agility level so you can get the graceful and don't have to walk anywhere, which is a pain.
Yeah.
I would like another idea of what we can do towards the lower end to soften that blow a little bit, because your run runs out so fast. What other thing can we add that would make a difference to help with that problem? I see a lot of shouting for rest. I don't know how people feel about that. Obviously, that was something that was added in RuneScape.
Is it possible to set up a straw poll to see how the players feel about resting? Because we're seeing a lot of people I know this is quite a contentious one. People with high agility don't want it devalued, of course, but like Kieran says, it is a problem.
So interesting. We got the suggestion of this very basic novice quest to free to play, where you help out these musicians who've had all their they've run into a bunch of thugs who took their instruments off them, stole them, but you helped them out. You got them their instruments back. You fixed them, and after you do that quest, these musicians are now in the world, and you can go and rest at them as you go by. But in all seriousness, as much as those might help, they have to be literally everywhere to really make a difference.
So there's some real negative sentiment for rest. I think part of the reason might be that it's reminiscent of obviously RuneScape, and so people in Old School want to say, oh, our game is different, we don't want that, that's in their game. But there needs to be a real reason. I'm not an advocate of it, I'm just saying there has to be an actual reason.
I just think when you start the game, right, think back to when you start, you appear in Lumbridge. That's one of the first things you want to do after you've picked up some cash, and maybe you want to go to the Stronghold Security. That's a hell of a walk. Then you want to go to the GE. There's a lot of walking at the start if you know what you're doing firstly as well.
Yeah. I wonder if it's I had to do it, so they have to do it.
There's a lot of that.
That does happen sometimes, I think. But I like to think most of our players are better than that, and they understand it's the future of the game that's important.
I mean, one of the ways that kind of offsets a bit of the run energy at the moment, a little bit, is the purple fruit from the Hesidious farm stalls, or the thieving from those stalls rather. But again, I think as they're untradeable, you got to go get that yourself, and that's you got to grind for that quite a bit.
That's not the same as the strange fruit.
It's a strange fruit, yeah.
Am I right in saying the Chaos Elemental drops that as well? If you can make it that far, you have to walk there, I guess. So we've got enough votes in on the straw poll. We asked if we should add a rest option, and 54% of you are in favour, and 46% are not. So
Rest is a very mixed bag. I'm not too surprised, but another option I think we have. So, what is the graceful set effect? I can't quite remember exactly what it does.
Reduces run energy used?
Yeah,
Essentially.
pretty much.
I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly
it
how
makes
it
it
does
so that you run out slower, basically,
But what I would like to do,
faster.
and that as well, I think.
what I'd like to do is make that scale per piece. So if you wear one piece of
I thought
graceful,
it did.
you get a fifth of that boost. If it doesn't already, I don't think it
No, you
does.
have to
It doesn't already. You have to wear the whole thing to get the
Whole
set
set.
effect,
Oh.
Yeah.
which it makes it regen faster when you're not as well.
It does make you lighter though, which
It makes you lighter, so it reduces the.
30% faster regen according to the chat.
Right.
There we go.
So 30%, if you wear just the top, maybe you get 5%, whatever the factor is.
Yeah.
And I think that would make a big difference because to get the set, I think it's like 50 odd, 60 odd agility, depending which courses you do. That's a lot. So if you can only do the level 30, you've got enough for one set. That seems reasonable. One piece, that's reasonable enough for me.
people are
I think that
saying
would make a big difference.
people are saying that's only when standing or walking.
Yeah, so the regen's only when you're not running.
Right. Okay.
So basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that idea of having it scale for each piece that you've got. That'll at least make skill capes viable on farming runs again. Bring back a bit of fashionscape. So we'll move on. We've got Dustin who says, can we consider nerfing black d'hide armor? Its magic defense in particular is too high and just generally it's too powerful for how easy it is to obtain. Well, what are your thoughts?
I'm in
Archie?
favor.
In favour?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I think this is the problem with this one, is that it's only really a problem with PvP.
Yeah.
And magic defense actually doesn't do that much. when
It's
in
true.
PvM.
Could we do this only for PvP?
No, not particularly.
Ah,
It's not the way the PvP stats work.
I was convinced
we
you were
could
gonna say yes.
we could do a massive, we could do a pretty massive job of making armor have different stats for PvP and standard, but that just is not really approachable.
yeah.
Magic defense doesn't do a whole lot of much in
Yeah.
PVM anyway.
And there's
really.
not a massive difference from d'hide to Armadillo or Carol's. The gap's tiny. So
Like,
I mean, I
Carrots
agree in
should be a lot
principle.
stronger, right?
I agree in principle. D'hide is very strong for what it is, but I don't know if we can approach changing it. I don't know how.
There's another thing I wouldn't mind raising a bit, which is a little bit similar, which is range, specifically PvP again. Sorry, guys. Ranging in full melee is still very
Yeah, I thought you
viable.
might say
Right.
that.
So you can MSB torso, runeplate legs,
Yeah.
berserker helm, and you're still gonna be able to hit 20s, and you'll do fine. You don't need to bring range armor switch, and then you can just switch into your melee weapon.
Yeah, as long as you're not wearing like a plate body or something, your range is totally fine for just
Yeah.
hitting, which is not great for PvP. You just stand there in tank armor.
Should we add more sort of it's negative range stats then for those pieces, I guess, is the answer.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have a little bit of that with melee, with some range pieces giving you negative melee stats. You obviously have that with magic. You can't cast magic in melee or range gear. But with range, you can do it with anything, and you're still going to be good.
So, I guess as a sweeping change, how would people feel about negative range offensive stats and negative magic offensive stats being, made a lot harsher on melee equipment?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously with balancing, we wouldn't be able to pick any numbers right now. But if we could put something together and then put it out maybe for testing, or maybe even in a beta world, let people try it. But to rebalance the combat triangle.
I think it makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
quite honest.
Seems like quite a strong yes reaction in the chat to
It
that.
gives each combat style more of a identity. And I think that's good. It should be that way. That's the whole point of the combat, right? Is set on this triangle idea. So it doesn't
This
make
isn't
sense
even
to be able
just
to-
this isn't even just PvP. This will obviously affect the whole game.
yeah.
So, whereas there's something we'd have to consider carefully. We don't want to be too harsh. You're still going to be able to range. Firstly, it's not going to affect your max hit. If you get lucky and hit, you can hit anything.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can make hitting a 0 much more likely.
So we're actually running out of time very quickly for the number of questions I've got. I'm going to go through these a bit quicker now, just to make sure we can get as many in as possible. Julia asks, I suppose this is more for the devs, there have been a few cold fixes recently to patch something without waiting until Thursday for the update. Can you elaborate on what can or cannot be hotfixed and why?
I guess it's hard to explain without having a better understanding of the code base, but essentially, if it's server script, we can hotfix it.
Yeah.
If it requires information that's downloaded onto your client, we can't hotfix that. You can only download that new stuff with an actual update. So generally, though, we can sometimes hotfix around it. So we can put in clever solutions. Like, we can't edit the map, for example. So we can't map a new NPC down or map an actual wall down or something like that. However, we can spawn that dynamically in server script. So tricks we often use is somebody walks into Ports of Rim and there's a missing crate. When somebody walks into Ports of Rim, we spawn a crate.
Yeah.
And as long as there's a crate there, we don't spawn another one. So that sort of thing. So we can do clever little things. But, yeah.
Cool, thank you. I think that so as good an explanation as can be. I mean, it makes it nice and simple for people like me who don't understand how it works.
That's an interesting question. I like that.
Another player wants to know if we can get a headhunter NPC to trade in spare KBD and Cowfight Queen heads for a chance at the pet and maybe some Slayer XP. I really like this idea. Can we extend it to Vorkath? Because I have quite a few.
No. I don't like this idea, no.
I don't personally feel like I want
No.
to do
Oh, I'm feeling a mixed vibe in the chat.
that. I'm feeling like this is one of the
Yeah,
that we
exactly.
should sweep under the carpet and just not.
No, I don't think we should.
I would rather cash it in for Slayer
Lots of
points or
yeses.
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe not for the pet. That's probably a bit strong,
Yeah.
Yeah.
regardless of the rate. Roman says, can we get Otto the Barbarian to teach us to smash jugs as we can with vials? They're cheap food, but the remaining jugs can be annoying.
Jugs are a lot stronger
Yeah.
than
They're made up, they're metal, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
I understand where they're coming from, though. So places like Windsor Todd, it's annoying to see all the jugs on the floor.
But the thing is, people don't have to turn it off either. I would like jugs on the floor and stuff at Wintertime. We should solve that in the first place because that's annoying.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not going to be changed. People won't be doing this mini game or whatever it is that's required just to do that. Not everybody, at least.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's still going to be a thing.
Yeah, because it mostly annoys other people who aren't actually using the wine
Yeah.
anyway.
There's a couple of places. Wintertime Blast Furnace, where people drop stuff on the floor and it becomes annoying when you need to walk to specific tiles. Those we should address otherwise. But in terms of smashing up jugs when you're drinking them, if it's a big thing, absolutely, it's not hard. So,
Yeah, that's reasonable. Vixer, another PvP question. Vixer asks, can we see some more changes to the standard spellbook? Currently, it's abysmal for PKing.
I am massively in favor of, quite passionate about this,
are you a lover of a normal spellbook or something?
removing the half entangle and half
Yeah.
freezes with the normal spellbook. I think it should be a full freeze. They're expensive, they don't do any damage. You're on normals as it is. You're not,
You're carrying a
not
lot of
really-
runes for all these different spells that you're PKing on the normal spellbook with as well.
What's that?
You're carrying a hell of a lot of runes as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, there's a lot of your inventory taken up just with runes for those spells.
It has type like, yes, that is the thing.
Yeah,
It
that,
does.
That's what makes it better than terrible.
Yeah.
that's what it's used for, basically.
How is the
Yeah.
damage output now with the flame book and whatever it's called?
Fire Surge.
Fire Surge is
Fire
You can
super
hit
strong,
40.
but again, if you're going against people in D'hide, you could still splash 10
Yeah.
times. You could splash your freezes a couple of times, and then they're gone.
Okay, so the answer is yes, we would like to buff the standard spellbook.
I would. If we share that opinion, that's great.
Yeah, especially if we're
shall we
rebalancing
do-
range and stuff. Rebalancing negative stats on armors and things, anyways.
Yeah.
And looking at Black D'hide, potentially looking at the spellbook at the same time is not out of the realms of possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, actually, you and I, Monroe, we were talking about Entangle earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because the half when you're wearing, sorry, the half time of those spells don't apply to barrage, even if you're praying mage. So it seems that they've been quite, well, I don't know if it was a nerf. I think they were released like that, but yeah, they're not particularly strong. Moving on, we have Derp asking to avoid immersion breaking, have Konar give players a stone tablet rather than the keys which have been suggested in the current poll. When you roll on her table, you could have a message display saying you feel that Konar approves of your efforts to restore the balance, and you add a notch to the stone. You can then have a right-click op which would let you check the tablet for how many notches you've got.
What? Well, so your character just decides.
Yeah.
I feel Kono would be proud of me. And scratches
This
a notch.
is the suggestion. Or something similar. The idea is to have essentially stackable keys or whatever the item is going to be, but it would mean having to take this thing with you and then presenting it to Konar when you want to get the reward.
I feel at the end of the day, it doesn't make much difference.
No. This seems quite convoluted.
I think the keys work quite well already to solve the fact there's a problem with how does it make sense. The keys do a lot to do that. You take them back to Konar and we should be all right. If there's still problems after that, we'll look to see what we can do.
Sorry, Derp. Adamena asks if the sections in the collection log could have their header text turn green when they're completed.
Seems entirely reasonable to me, should you ever manage to complete one.
Yeah.
I think the reason we decided not to have this from release was it's difficult to complete, and no one's realistically going to complete the whole thing. Watch someone do it now. But the length of time it would take to get all of the third age, among other things.
Evil chicken.
Look how
outfit.
hard it is to get the whole every pet.
Yeah.
I know one person got every pet. Did they get the Hydra pet yet? Do you know?
Not that I know.
So currently, I don't believe anyone in game has every pet.
No.
That's only one part of the collection log, let alone every third age item. So
And every evil chicken outfit piece as well, which is quite a tricky one.
So this was the reason we didn't want to do it initially, because it would look it would be dissatisfying to have some green sections knowing that you'd almost guaranteed to not complete the other ones. But if it's something you guys want, we can look at doing it.
I'm going to jump in and grab a random question. Sorry for wasting time. Somebody said, can a JMod nerf or buff an account?
what with luck?
Yeah,
I'll just
just thinking like as a punishment for being a bad player and breaking rules and such, we could even further, reduce your
That feels like
rare drops.
Wow.
we don't even tell you. We just don't like you, so we turn down your luck variable.
Yeah, just
Imagine you were like cheating in the game, and then now your drop rate of getting a whip is twice as rare.
We make it seem run energy runs out 5 times faster.
yeah. You always got the maximum weight as well.
Sorry, it's irrelevant.
Tunak asks if I like this suggestion actually, asks if the magic secateurs could function as Slayer gems do, but for farming contracts. So give them a right-click option which would check things like what your current contract is, the status of your plants, so diseased, not diseased, and the growth stage that they're in.
I would prefer to go down the route that Guildmaster Jin gives you like a scroll that you keep, and that's what updates it, rather than attaching it to the magic secateurs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of yeses though.
I just wouldn't want to attach it to the magic sectors as well, because if not everyone can get them all the time.
Yeah,
And you'd have to finish the quest first to get them, which would just lock out people from getting them for a while. Or, a Slayer gem anyone can get from any Slayer Master, but if we get the magic sectors, they're stuck behind a quest.
Yeah, I do find myself sometimes logging in and then thinking, what's my contract? So then I have to run to Jane and then I have to just go to the contract. So if I had known, that would make it better.
Attaching it to the secateurs does lock it behind a quest completely separate. If you're doing farming contracts, you should be able to access the thing that lets you see what contract you have.
Yeah.
Can you NPC contact her to find out?
She's not.
She's not on that menu.
Would that be a good idea?
Probably more
Do
effort.
these things
It
on
would
the
still be
NRS?
locked, obviously with Luna and spells.
Yeah.
But we could add
Okay.
two
You're
NPC
not-
contact and then give this scroll thing as well, which would make it available to everyone.
In all seriousness, we could add the scroll, we could add the secateurs, we could add in contact. We could do all of these things and it satisfies everyone, hopefully. So yeah, we can do all of that.
Okay. So in essence, the idea is good. We'd like to do it where it comes up, probably just a scroll or something.
As on the topic of magic secateurs, I'd like them to make it so that they work in your inventory
Yes.
for the buffing effect. Of
this
I would
I
also
don't
like.
like.
I would also like this as well.
A lot of
like-
people want this, but I'm not a fan.
having to equip them is just annoying.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense though. They're magic secateurs because when
They're
you're
still
picking
in your bag.
It's still the ones you're
That's
using
in your
though.
They do
hand.
make sense though, because you can't even wield other tools. Like a spade you don't wield, it's just in your inventory.
Yeah. You're still using those secateurs.
Yeah.
It's not like you've got a second pair of secateurs you magically
can-
pull out of thin air
You can use an
just
axe
because you
without
have
wielding it.
not wielding magic secateurs.
I think you should be holding tools for them to work, but that's just me.
Well, you can't hold seed dibbers.
Cattle.
Consistent.
Yeah.
We need to fix that then.
It is magic seed dippers too.
Lovely.
Scarecrow asks, what do you think about Iron Man accounts paying protection to clans to farm revenants? The Iron Men have to use another account to trade them the gold, and the benefits are massive. due to the supplies and cash dropped by the revs. It seems against the spirit of the game mode.
It does, but how are we going to moderate that? How are we going to stop people from offering their services, their protection services, which are not indefinite? They can die.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That one's a bit.
I'm personally not convinced it's much of an issue. It is a multiplayer game. I understand that an Iron Man is supposed to be working by themselves, but
In an ideal world, if you played Iron Man, we'd give you a single player world, but we can't do that.
Yeah.
There's certain problems we're always going to run into. It's just sort of how it is, I think.
Can I ask a somewhat related question? Not really related at all, actually. Monkey Madness 2 tunnels. The meta is to have a couple different accounts following each other like that. What are our thoughts on that?
Again, nothing we can really do about it.
No.
That's how the game
Unless we
works.
get
Just how, multiplayer game.
Yeah. Okay.
They are in the wilderness. If you don't like it, go kill them. If you can't kill them, well,
Get a team together and go kill them.
yeah,
Yeah.
if that works.
Yeah, get more people. And then more people.
a similar sort of thing applied in Deadman, where clans would lock down areas and resources. But I like the argument that anyone can do that. Anyone can get a clan together and fight them as a clan. And if that's what's happening, then so be it. It's a multiplayer game, and you are supposed to fight other people and deal with the situation that arises. We don't want to handhold players through every little thing. That's my opinion on the matter. Saitama wants to know if we can get Elite Void helmet and gloves to match the set.
What do they do? They
Just make
It doesn't
them
say
make
what
them
they
look
do.
different. I assume it's just make them look different because obviously,
Probably give it a prayer bonus.
yeah.
I wouldn't support giving it the extra attack bonus or ranger bonus.
No.
Maybe prayer, if it's not already overpowered.
Void's already very strong, is the thing.
Yeah.
Lots of no's in chat. I think sort of maybe if the design is right, but otherwise I don't see a particular need for it myself. Anon, we haven't had many lore questions, so I'll squeeze this one in. This player wants to know if we could see a storyline that ties the lizard men of Zaya to the Ham members of Gillinor as another way to sort of intertwine the two lands together.
We want to do more with Lizardmen. There's a lot of story to tell there, and it sort of screams for it when you go and see that temple and everything about the Lizardmen. But they're not related to the Ham whatsoever.
Maybe the Ham could go on an expedition. They could say they've heard about these horrible creatures in Zaya and they want to go hunt them down.
A group of 12 people from Longbridge. Good luck to them.
Yeah.
The Ham storyline's completely separate, and they're like focused on the goblins.
Okay. So yeah, we are looking for ways to tie Zaya to the mainland lore-wise, but maybe that's not the route. I like the idea. But, okay.
We had Little and Big Mo at a time, for whoever remembers that.
Something I did want to cover. This player wanted clarification on how the key that monsters on Konar's tasks, that they drop, how it will work. There's been some confusion possibly around the wording of the poll question.
Yeah.
So to clarify, it's not going to replace the normal drops on that monster's table. In the same way that when you roll on Konar's table, it's an additional drop. It's replacing that instead. So it's not going to stop you from a chance of getting a boss unique or anything like that. It's not affecting the drop rates or the tables in any way. It's literally just a different way of cashing them in, essentially.
Then you get a stack of keys. I believe you take them to a chest next to Konar. Open the chest, get the same loot you would have got previously on the floor. It just adds. It's an extra step, but it makes it more thematically.
That's a question as well. Are we going to make this key stackable from the chat?
There is demand for it.
That would solve the Konar tablet thing from earlier. Or maybe have it like Konar's coins, when you get a coin drop and then you sell these coins to Konar, or Konar lets you have like a go within the chests for every coin or something like that.
Seems reasonable that it's stackable to me.
Okay. So it sounds like we're leaning towards making them stackable. Okay, so that actually brings us around to the end of the stream. There's a few things I want to say before we go, which is don't forget !new mod to check out Mod Tide, who's just joined the team. He's our new junior content dev. Follow him on Twitter to see what he's getting up to. watch your player inbox and email on Friday for any messaging around warding. To get your opinion, there's going to be a survey going out. Please let us know what you think. And keep an eye on the news page of the website. It might be up already, but there's going to be a Chambers of Xeric blog for some changes. Like I say, have a look at that. I guess that about rounds it out. I'd like to thank everyone who joins me on the sofa today. And we'll catch you next week.